Greetings, Groovers. I'm at the Bickford Smith Institute in Porthleven with the Lord Mayor of Porthleven, Mr. Mark Berryman. Thank you very much, Mark, for having us, the Cornwall channel here.
Thank you, Rob. Good to see you.
Thank you. And I wondered, Mark, if you'd like to kick off proceedings by telling us a little bit about the history of Porthleven.
History of Porthleven, yeah, sure. Porthleven was almost a Victorian invention. For hundreds of years there were little fishermen's cottages here, and this was just a very simple cove. Then in the early 19th century the harbour was built to facilitate exports of tin, copper and china clay, which was actually discovered just outside the village for the first place in Britain. So between 1811 and 1825 I think the harbour was built. There was a massive building boom here. That tailed off around 1870, so the village was still relying on its fishing, went into a slight decline, and then post-war you have a boom with Coldrose. So that's the history. It's reinvented itself 2 or 3 times.
Thinking about military pursuits, we have Guy Gibson.
We do. Guy is one of our more famous sons from Porthleven. His mother was from a well-known local family. His parents were married in Porthleven, and Guy spent most of his childhood here, all his school holidays, and in fact his final holiday before the Dambusters he spent here, and sadly his final leave before he was killed over the Netherlands. So yeah, a local hero we're very proud of and pleased to commemorate.
And a street named after Guy Gibson.
We have a street named after Guy. We have a memorial plaque on this building, and there's a memorial in the churchyard. So yeah, something we're very proud of.
Mark, I'm just thinking about more up-to-date developments in Porthleven, and obviously the traditional sources of industry have changed from fishing, and,
Sure.
and quite a large tourism industry now in Porthleven.
We do have a tourist industry in Porthleven. It's a vital part of the economy, as our second homes. You can't get away from that. What I think separates us from other small Cornish seaside towns is that we're still a working town. We're not purely dependent on tourism. So that tourists are very welcome, but when they're walking around they will see working boats, they will see fish being landed, they'll see lobster fishermen, they'll see crab fishermen, and that gives us, I think, an edge. We're a mixed town. We're not enthralled to the tourist dollar. That we welcome them, they're a vital part of our economy, but luckily they aren't the be-all and end-all.
Absolutely, and looking forward to spending time amongst good Porthleven folk later this afternoon.
There's a lot. Everybody always says that there aren't the characters that there were. Well, believe me, if you, as I think you'll discover this afternoon, they're still there, and they'll be there in 30 years. There'll always be characters, and yeah, we seem to have our fair share, shall we say? Yeah, and long may they reign.
Indeed. I think I remember when I first came to Porthleven, I saw a T-shirt saying "Porthleven, a quaint drinking village with a fishing